Fellas, I got a good episode for you today. We're going to be talking about the Four Horsemen. No, not the biblical Four Horsemen, but these guys are still just as dangerous. We're going to be talking about the Four Horsemen of your worst self. Let's talk about it. Gentlemen, welcome. If this is your first episode, my name is Larry Jackson, and this is The Modified Gentleman. This is where we help men become better men through self-awareness and development. And we do that by talking about life's challenges and discussing tips, tools, tactics, and strategies to help you overcome those challenges and become a better man. All right? So pull up a chair, get comfortable, and let's have a conversation. Today, we are talking about the Four Horsemen. No, not the biblical Four Horsemen, but yet these Four Horsemen are still just as dangerous. We're talking about the Four Horsemen of your worst self. Now, you might be saying, what the hell is that? Who the hell is that? Where did that come from? Who are these Four Horsemen of your worst self? So over the years where I've been talking with friends, family, clients, people I've coached, people who have coached me, my mentors, people I've crossed paths with at events and seminars and conventions and things like that, I usually ask the question, when you have challenges in life, what challenge or what theme would that challenge fall under? And out of those challenges, they usually fall into four different categories. Now, I'm not saying all of your challenges are going to fall into just these four specific categories, but most of the ones that I have encountered has fallen into these four categories. And I have labeled these four categories as the Four Horsemen of your worst self. So what are these Four Horsemen? They are laziness, distraction, ignorance, and fear. And these are the Four Horsemen of your worst self. Now, real quick, before we get too deep in there, I want to share something with you guys. A couple of years back, I wrote a book called The Modified TOOLBOX. And it's filled with powerful tools and thoughts to help you focus and expand your self-awareness. So in here, I talk about, or I share thoughts about the Four Horsemen of your worst self. You can pick this up on Amazon at the Modified TOOLBOX, or you can check the description below that has a link where you can go and you can buy a copy of it, okay? So I want to read something out of here for you guys. I want to read a quick passage. The Four Horsemen of your worst self: laziness, distraction, ignorance, and fear. These four aspects of life are extremely powerful. Just one of them can derail your progress in life. So how do we defeat them? All right. We're going to get started on the first horseman. What do you think the first horseman is? I think the first horseman is usually one that's more manageable, but it's also the sneakiest one. The first horseman is laziness. Laziness wants to be your best friend. He'll beg you to hang out with him all day, every day. Tell him you're busy. You have life to do. Discipline will keep you on track when laziness shows up. Now, did you catch the solution in there? What do we use to fight laziness? We use discipline. Now, let's break down laziness real quick, though. The crazy thing about laziness is that you can find yourself inside of laziness without even knowing it, because it starts simple. It starts small. Now, I don't want you to confuse taking a rest, because taking a rest is simple. Let's say you come home, you're tired, but you still have things to do. Maybe you got to wash clothes, you got to wash dishes, or whatever the case may be. You come home, you take a rest, you unwind, then you get up and you do what needs to be done. You do the thing that needs to get done. That's not laziness. That's you taking a rest. Laziness is when you just lack the complete work ethic to get anything done. You don't even have the determination to go and engage in getting things done. It's when you're just home all day and, I don't feel like doing anything. But there's also different forms of laziness. It's not just a physical thing. You can be mentally lazy, where you don't engage emotional. You have emotional laziness. You have financial laziness. You have social laziness, where you just don't even engage with anything. So laziness is one of those things that it can consume you if you're not careful. And what do we use to combat laziness? We use discipline. Discipline is when you put a plan in place that keeps you on track so you don't fall into the web and be consumed of laziness. You come home from work, okay, cool, I'm gonna take a quick rest, I'm gonna unwind real quick, but I'm gonna get up and put on my workout clothes and go work out. And I do that 3, 4, 5 times a week consistently. Those weeks turn into months. That's discipline across the board. Or you come home and you say, I am gonna chop up some food and I'm gonna meal prep, and I'm gonna do that 3 times a week. I'm gonna do it maybe Monday, Thursday, and maybe Saturday. Whatever you pick is up to you. But having the discipline to put that in place to do a meal prep is what gets you out of the clutches of laziness. You stop eating out. You say, I'm not gonna eat out. I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna buy groceries. I'm gonna cook my meals. I'm gonna meal prep. Boom. Whatever the case may be, you break yourself out of that laziness by picking up positive habits of discipline. Now, I'm not talking about motivation, because you're going to be motivated when you start putting these ideas in place. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then when you realize like motivation runs out, it's not infinite, And after the motivation runs out, the discipline has to take over. Because when you don't feel like doing something, you still do it because there's a greater good to it. There's a greater benefit. You have a greater mindset. There's a bigger goal in place. And discipline keeps you on track with that. All right, guys, you understand that? So how do we defeat laziness? We do that with discipline. All right. Now, let's get to the next horseman. The next horseman is distraction. Let's talk about that real quick. Distraction is the curator of a million dreams. You have to wake up, focus your energy on the order of importance, and prioritize the things that are most meaningful in your life. Now, when we talk about distraction, which is real heavy nowadays, people wake up, first thing they do is turn over, grab their phone, and they start scrolling. You're like, I'm going to check my DMs, check some emails. I'm going to check, a couple of TikToks, a couple of memes. It should take 5 to 10 minutes. Next thing you know, it's going on 45 minutes to an hour. You've been sitting there scrolling because you got distracted. And there's different types of distractions. There's things that distract you from your dreams, things that distract you from your goals, things that distract you from your well-being. You have to have judgment and discernment to look at those things and say, this stuff isn't feeding me. And so what do we use to fight distraction? We prioritize what's meaningful to us. We prioritize the things that has value to us, things that we want to do to get done in the bigger picture, in the bigger landscape of things. And the things that are not in our realm of priority, we slide them, you slide them to the side because they're not a priority to you. They're not meaningful to you. And I got it. You can get on your phone, you can scroll a couple of things, and it might make you feel good for a little bit. If you're dealing with something, you want some things to make you laugh, cheer you up. That's fine. That's okay. I'm not saying that that's wrong. But when you have an abundance of distraction, you're going to start having problems. Huge problems. So we use prioritization to manage distractions so they don't get out of hand. You don't get consumed by distractions. I hope that makes sense, guys. All right, let's keep it moving forward. Our third horseman that we're dealing with is ignorance. Ignorance is a very confident horseman, and he thinks he knows it all. However, true knowledge allows you to never stop learning from everyone and everything. Now, when I talk about ignorance, I'm not talking about this current misinterpreted definition that ignorance means stupid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about old-fashioned traditional definition of ignorance that means lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge. That means you don't know what you don't know, and you have to go and figure it out. That's what that means. So how do we fight ignorance? We use knowledge. We use our curiosity to go and find out things that we don't know. We'll also leave our mind open so we can receive knowledge that we didn't have. So if you close off your mind You're not going to receive the things that are coming to you. You're not going to receive when someone is trying to tell you, hey, this is good knowledge. You might want to put this in your toolbox. Hey, this is something you might want to use later on down the line. So open your mind so that way knowledge you can just soak it up like a sponge. It'll come to you. But if you have, I'm not saying ignorance is a bad thing. I'm saying it's something you need to be aware of. But don't let it consume you. When you close your mind off to knowledge, ignorance will consume you. And I don't mean ignorance that you're dumb or stupid. That is completely not the definition we're talking about. We're talking about the definition of lack of knowledge. Because you're going to deal with things in life that you may know how to deal with it one way. That doesn't mean it's the right way. But when someone else shows you a different way, you need to be open to that. You need to be open to understanding that there are different ways of learning knowledge, different ways to combat your own ignorance. As new information comes into your life, comes into your system, you got to process that properly so you can understand, oh, okay, this is a different way of doing this. I can do this better. I can level up. This can make me better. So how do we fight ignorance? We fight it by expanding our knowledge. All right, makes sense? Good. Let's keep it moving. All right, the last horseman we're talking about. The last horseman is fear. Fear is the strongest horseman and has incredibly thick skin. We must sharpen our courage to cut through it. Never let your edge become dull, or fear will quickly overtake you. Now, fear is something that we all have. It's inside of us all, and we have to figure out different ways to deal with that. I think the best way to combat fear is with courage. Now, I don't mean bravery. I don't mean being brave. Because when I think of brave, I think of the absence of fear. And that could be dangerous because fear is also needed. Fear is a very important emotion. Don't just ignore your fear. But when I talk about courage, courage is acknowledging that fear is there and you respect the fear. But yet, you have the strong enough willpower and determination and fortitude to push through the fear, to work through it. That is your courage, to work through it. If you are afraid of heights and you go to the top of a skyscraper just to look over the edge, you still feel, you have that feeling of fear right in in your chest that goes down to the pit of your stomach. You feel it, but you still had the courage to go up there and look over the edge and face that fear. Now, I'm not talking about, like I said earlier, I'm not talking about just having bravery where it feels like the absence of fear, where you just go run in head first and just jump into something without thinking of the consequences. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about courage where you look fear directly in the face. You look fear directly in the face and you face it head on and you respect that fear. But you work through it, you push through it, you conquer it. So, how do we defeat fear? Sharpening our courage so we can cut through those different fears that we have, right? Getting through it, working through it. You understand? I hope that makes sense. The level of courage that you have is dependent upon the level of sacrifice you want to put into it, the level of willpower that you want to beat those fears and not let those fears beat you. Having that type of courage, and it could be anything. There's little fears, there's big fears, and you got to have courage that's either going to be equal to those fears or overwhelming to those fears. You have to. You can't have just a little bit of courage and a huge fear. Your courage has to be equal or greater to those fears in order for you to conquer them. But the best thing about that courage is that you nurture it and it grows. It gets bigger, it gets stronger. It's like taking care of a little child. That courage that you have grows up to be big and strong and smart and recognizes how life works. And you feel confident in yourself. You understand? So, all right, I'm not going to keep this going too long. I'm going to keep that right where that is, wrap that up nice and sweet with a bow for you guys. But just to let you understand the 4 horsemen of your worst self and how we can work through those and defeat them appropriately. All right. So laziness, distraction, ignorance, and fear. How do we fight them? With discipline, priority, knowledge, and courage. That's how we beat them. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in, having a nice conversation. I love sitting down talking with you guys. Make sure you check out the book when you get a chance. You can get it on Amazon, the Modified Toolbox. Check the description below for a link where you can also pick it up. There's also a hard copy or ebook copy. You can get both of them, all right? So with that being said, I appreciate you guys. I hope you stay safe out there. Have an awesome, amazing day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.